The wind howled like something alive. I should have felt excited as I drove up the Rocky Mountain Road, the kind of excitement that comes from a new adventure, a fresh start. But something in the cold, sharp air made my skin crawl. The kind of feeling that tells you, you're not alone. Not yet. Maybe not ever. My name is James, and I just accepted a caretaker position for a small research cabin in the Rockies. Simple enough, I thought at the time. A month of peace, no distractions, no one breathing down my neck. Just me, the cabin, and the mountains. The pay was good, but I never realized just how much the price for that peace would cost. When I reached the cabin, the sun was low, brushing the peaks with orange and gold. The building looked almost ordinary from the outside. Log walls, a stone chimney, the smell of pine sap lingering around it. But there was something off. It wasn't just the isolation. It was a subtle wrongness, like the air around it had been holding its breath for decades. The first thing I noticed inside was the letter, lying neatly on the kitchen table, as if someone had been waiting for me to arrive. I picked it up. The handwriting was precise, almost elegant, and yet every stroke seemed urgent, desperate. It read, "To whoever finds this, 5 rules. Follow them. Survival depends on them. Ignore at your own peril." Beneath it, 5 strict rules were listed. No explanations, no context, just the rules themselves. Never answer the door at night. Never follow the child. Never trust voices claiming to be your loved ones. Never ignore the warning signs. Never leave the fire unattended. I laughed nervously. A prank? Maybe. Or an old caretaker trying to scare off the next person. Rules sounded like superstition, like something from a ghost story meant to keep you awake at night. I shoved the letter into my pocket, determined to settle in and ignore the nonsense. The first night, the cabin creaked and moaned in the wind as old cabins do. Shadows danced along the walls. I tried to sleep, but around 3 a.m., a faint giggle pulled me from my bed. A little girl, standing at the edge of the hallway, dressed in a pale blue dress, her eyes wide and unblinking. I froze. She didn't move forward, didn't speak. She just stood there, silent, staring. Something inside me screamed to stay put. Something told me that never follow the child wasn't a joke. I stayed in bed, heart hammering, listening as her tiny footsteps retreated into the shadows. By morning, I almost convinced myself I had imagined it. The sunlight streaming through the cabin windows made everything feel normal again. But the letter's rules were burning in my mind, insistent, urgent. It wasn't long before the second test came. I was chopping firewood outside when I heard a voice calling my name, a familiar voice, soft and coaxing. My mother's voice, unmistakable. My heart sank. She had been gone for years, but there it was, right in front of me, or so it seemed. "James, come closer." I remembered Rule 3 immediately. Never trust voices claiming to be your loved ones. Every instinct screamed to run, but a part of me wanted to believe, to run into the arms of a voice I hadn't heard in years. I gritted my teeth, turned, and ran back into the cabin, slamming the door. The voice didn't stop. It echoed through the trees, through the walls, through my mind. And that was the thing. You couldn't ignore them. They didn't tire, didn't rest. They were patient, hunting your weakest moments, preying on your longing. Over the next few days, the rules were tested one by one, and each time the consequences became more immediate, more horrifying. Shadows moved without cause. Whispers crawled along the floorboards. At night, the girl in blue returned, sometimes accompanied by other figures I couldn't fully see, just glimpses of glowing eyes, flashes of movement in the corner of my vision. One evening I saw him, the man with glowing red eyes. He wasn't human, and yet he walked like one, smooth, deliberate, confident. He waited outside, just beyond the tree line, staring straight at me. I knew then that ignoring Rule 4, never ignore the warning signs, would be the end of me. And then the attack came. Not one, not two, but a coordinated assault from everything that haunted that mountain. The girl, the man with the glowing eyes, the voices, shadows that stretched like liquid across the walls. They swarmed the cabin, relentless, tearing at the very air around me. My lungs burned as I fought to keep the fire alive because Rule 5, never leave the fire unattended, suddenly made perfect, terrifying sense. The fire wasn't just warmth, it was protection. I grabbed a can of kerosene and set the cabin ablaze. Flames licked the walls, smoke filled the air, and I ran, stumbling into the forest, leaving behind everything I had brought, everything I had hoped for. Behind me, the cabin crumbled under fire and shadows, a testament to rules broken and lessons learned too late. By dawn, I had reached a road, flagged down a passing car, and collapsed into safety. Shaking, coughing, barely able to speak, I tried to tell my story. But the faces I recounted, the figures I described, met disbelief. A man with red eyes, a girl in blue, voices of the dead. It sounded insane. But I knew the truth. I knew the mountains were alive in ways no human should witness. I started digging into the history of that cabin, desperate for answers, desperate to understand, and what I found made my stomach turn. Decades of caretakers, all vanishing. Some left notes like mine. Some disappeared without a trace. Every single disappearance tied to the rules, tied to ignoring the warnings. And so I took it upon myself. To continue the message, I became a messenger of survival, a warning for those who might come after me, hoping that by spreading the knowledge I could prevent another life from being consumed. Every time I tell someone the rules, I watch their reaction. Some laugh, some scoff. But the truth is relentless. Patient, waiting in the Rockies, waiting for the next mistake, the next moment of disbelief. You might be thinking this is just a story, a chilling tale to keep you up at night. But let me assure you, the mountains remember, the shadows remember. And if you ever find yourself alone in a cabin in the Rockies, remember this: 5 rules. Follow them. Never, ever forget. Because once you break them, there's no coming back. And now, before you go thinking this is all fiction, let me ask you, what would you do if the voices of your loved ones called to you from the darkness? Would you run, or would you follow? Think about that. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, stories that will make you question every shadow and every whisper, make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment below telling me which rule you think you'd struggle with the most. Because trust me, the shadows are always listening.